everybody, welcome to our weekly video. This week's Parsha is Yitro, or Jethro. Jethro was the father-in-law of Moses. He comes and joins the Jewish people. And at the end of the Parsha, we have the 10 commandments, or the Aseres HaDibros, the 10 statements that form the underpinnings of humanity, of morality, and the importance of certain ideas to teach the world, and so on and so forth. I want to share a little bit about the 10 Commandments because I think that's the most important and central point of this Parsha. In truth, the Judaism was not the first code. There were other codes that came before. What is the revolution of the 10 Commandments? Big display, thunder, lightning, everyone's gathered at the foot of the mountain. What's so special? So I want to share a couple of ideas that I think are important, that are worth sharing about the 10 Commandments. The first statement, God says, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. Why didn't he say, I am the Lord your God who created the universe? If you were going to talk about what is the most important, most significant thing that God has accomplished, I would say creating our universe. Maharal of Prague asks this question and he explains that God wanted to say that I'm not just a God that created the world and laws of nature and let the world run on its own devices and I'm out of the picture. I took you out of Egypt. I listened to your cry. I hear you. I care about you. Judaism is not about pleasing God like the Greeks, to please the gods. No. Judaism is about God cares about you. And in fact, the Talmud tells us, why were we given the mitzvahs? They were given for us, for human beings, to improve our lives. God doesn't need your mitzvah. The mitzvah does something for you. The entire Guide to the Perplexed that Maimonides wrote was to explain this idea, how each mitzvah is there to benefit us. Another revolution of the 10 Commandments is Shabbos. 3,500 years ago, the Torah tells us you got to take a day off work. Not only do you have to take a day off work, but your employees have to take a day off work. And what type of employees? Slaves. This is a time of slavery. Slaves taking a day off. They're human beings. Treat them like human beings. They don't work every day of the week. Not only slaves, your animals have to rest. That ox that plows your field, the donkey that carries your goods, they also have to take a day off work. Let them rest. What a revolution. The Greeks called the Jews lazy because they took a day off work. Jews came to America in the 30s, the 40s. It was very difficult to get a job where you didn't have to work on Shabbos. In fact, there were some synagogues that were called Shomrei Shabbos. Why? Because unique that these synagogues were those that people didn't work on Shabbos. It was very hard. Now it's accepted. In fact, the whole concept of the weekend traces its origins back to Shabbos. And in fact, the 7-day week is a result of the Shabbos. The last 5 of the 10 Commandments are how we treat other people. The first one being do not murder. The second one being do not commit adultery. Do not kidnap, steal. So, and the 5th one being, do not covet. Do not desire, do not try to get what other people have because you want to be like others. So I want to share a little bit about this. A student asked me the other day, says, Rabbi, do I believe in objective morality? I said, I believe in an absolute morality. What do I mean? So, the first of the commandments is, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. The 6th commandment, if you look at it on 2 columns, it's often displayed. The 6th commandment is do not murder. Why shouldn't I murder? So read it across. I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. Do not murder. The reason we don't murder is because God said so, and because God created every human being in the image of God. It's an inherent morality. It's inherent because every single person is created in the image of God, and because God said, do not murder, that's why I don't murder. I don't ask the question, well, what kind of life does this person have? What kind of quality of life? Is it worth living? Would they really want to continue going like this? That's not a question. It's not even up for discussion. God said, do not murder. Which is why Judaism is so against euthanasia of any form. Because as soon as we open the door to the question, well, what kind of life do they have? I don't know. Would they want to be this way? Then we're making a statement that life has relative value. Life has value if you can do what you want to do, etc. No, that's not Judaism. Judaism is, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt, do not murder. Because God exists, you don't murder. And that was a revolution. And it is still a revolution. In fact, it's needed now more than ever. Where these kind of ideas are coming under attack. Where we're open up the door to all sorts of isms and all sorts of ideas. Well, animals do this, or this one does that. We've got to understand the morality of Judaism is absolute. It's not up for debate. It's not up for discussion. It's not maybe. It's not depends. They become absolutes. And I believe that that is one of the major revolutions of the Ten Commandments. And something that we need to be reminded of on a regular basis. I want to share a little less heavy idea about Shabbos, which I think is very beautiful. The Torah says to remember the Shabbos day, to keep it holy. How do we remember Shabbos? We remember Shabbos by saying Kiddush. But Shammai the elder, Shammai Hazakin, would say he remembers Shabbos every day of the week. Because when he finds a delicacy, he would always prepare it and set it aside. I want this for Shabbos. The story goes of a man named Yosef Mokir Shabbos. Yosef who honored Shabbos. It's a beautiful story in the Talmud about this man who he was known to always seek out the best dishes and the best things for Shabbos. There was a fellow in his town who was an anti-Semite. And the astrologers told him that, your treasures are going to end up in the hands of Yosef Mokir Shabbos. So he decided to sell his property and put it into a diamond. And he sewed the diamond into his hat, so he would always have the diamond with him wherever he goes. Sure enough, one day, he was walking over a bridge, and his hat flew off. Of course, he was crestfallen. His whole treasure, his whole life savings is gone. Anyway, divers went in. They couldn't find the hat. That Friday, the fishermen hauled in a large fish, and they couldn't sell it. It's too big. So someone said, go to Yosef Mokir Shabbos. They went to Yosef Mokir Shabbos, and he said, I'll buy the fish. And he cut it up, and sure enough, inside there was a diamond. And that, the Talmud tells us, is the reward for giving this special honor, this special respect for Shabbos. So there's a little story you can share about Shabbos. And I wish you a good Shabbos.